All right, so there's been some interest in how we do these wooden forks for our push poles. So as you can see, went out, found my fork I wanted. I'm a little different in design. I like to have longer extensions in my fork to go over oyster bars and stuff. So we let this sit out and dry for a few months with the bark on so the wood ends don't split while they're drying. Came in here, cut my push pole off square, and then went in with some sandpaper and really sanded the inside of it really well so it provides some grip, and then cleaned it out. Make sure you clean it really well and get all that residue, that powder from where you sanded it out really well. And then I went ahead on this one and cut it down to a little bit of a basic shape, and then hold it up to the push pole here and just kind of mark it with a marker to get about how far you're going to need to trim it down. So it's just a basic, and I use a jigsaw, kind of whittle it down a little bit just so I know where it's at. And then for the first time, I'm going to try something new on my angle grinder. I got one of these flapper wheels. We're going to see how that works, sanding it down and shaping it with that. I've used it on other woodworking projects and it works really well. So we'll get to work on it and I'll show a little bit more here in a second. Yeah, it takes it down pretty quick. Now you just have to keep test fitting it. Take it over here. See how it fits. You can see I still got a ways to go. And that's all right. Well, I get some idea how much further I have to go down. Okay guys, so you can see I got that bottom portion, top, whatever you want to call it, inserted into the pole. Now it's going to insert more than what I've got so far. Basically, that's how much of it inserts right now. Right about there. I want to take it up just a little bit more, not much. So I'm just going to work on this little area right in here. Okay. Work on a little more. That's better. Alright, so it'll slide in there. We'll get our epoxy and stuff and we'll mount it in there with the epoxy. So the first thing we have to do before we do that though is we have to drill holes in this wood. So we're going to drill a hole down the center and we're going to drill a bunch of cross-section holes in it. And then you fill that with the epoxy along with the pole when you insert this and finish taping it in to hold it till it dries. And by filling this with the epoxy, it keeps the wood from expanding and splitting and splitting the pole in the end. Unfortunately for me, most of my tools are at my workshop, which is not here, so I kind of have to do this redneck style. So this is a 9/32 inch drill bit I'm using. People ask why 9/32, and it's just because it gives me a decent center hole. Without splitting it, it's not too big. Same thing when I start doing all these cross drills. When we do those, just going to do a series of them. They don't have to be in any certain pattern. You just want to make sure that you've got a good cross series of them to work on this and fill this as much as possible. Take your time when you're drilling these holes so you don't split anything and you're not splitting the wood. Probably some wood shop teacher going crazy that I've got my hand that close to a drill. As you can see, I've got center hole, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I've got 10 holes kind of drilled through it. I'll add a couple of more in some cross pieces here. You can clamp it great. Sometimes when we do it, depending on the shape of these forks, you just kind of have to hold it by hand and just be careful. And each one of these is kind of meeting that center hole. Just clean it up a little. That gives me 12 holes through there. That should be plenty. Like I said, the epoxy, you're going to mix it up. You're really going to fill this whole area up with epoxy. So first things first, we'll clean these holes off. All right, so we got it sanded, we got it fairly cleaned out. So now we can start mixing our epoxy. Fill all this and also put it in the push bowl. All right, we are back to the push-pull fork. It has been almost 48 hours. As you can see here, the JB weld is completely set up. You can press your fingernail into it and it doesn't leave a mark. You know it's good and set up. So now I'll untape this. All right, you can kind of see where the extra JB weld is on this. It's a little rough. Now, it's up to you individually. You can leave it like this. It's not going to hurt anything. Or you can take sander to it and you can sand it down nice and smooth. It will wear down over time a little bit, especially where the tape was around the push pole. This will start to wear down and all this will come off over use. Or like I said, if you're really worried about the aesthetics of it, which I probably will be, I'll take my sander, finishing sander, and I'll sand this down and shape it out nice and smooth. But guys, it's in there solid. It's not going to go anywhere. Your wooden fork is much quieter, much more natural when it hits a rock or an oyster. Instead of that plastic on shell sound, it's a wood on shell. It does not spook fish as much, and you can actually use it. You can take this fork, shove it into the mud and twist it, and it will lock your push pole in without it trying to float off. Even in soft mud, which we get some of the real muck, it does a good job of getting it in here and keeping your push pole from sinking too far. So that's the directions. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on email or direct message me. I'm happy to answer them. It's a little time consuming, but overall, it's not a hard project to do. All right, guys, so I took my rotary tool again and this flapper sander. Went ahead and sanded a lot of this down. You got to be really careful. Last thing you want to do is actually sand down your push pole. So if you're not comfortable using a grinder for this, finishing sander, or just do it by hand. You can see I got all the tape off except for this one little piece here. And I kind of smoothed it down to where it meets the wood good. So now I can just finish hand sanding it exactly like I want. This is 120 grit. I can just kind of finish sanding that JB weld area down nice and smooth. See if I can sand it off this last piece of tape to get it off, just so my OCD doesn't kick in. And there it goes. You're probably not going to be 100% smooth through here, and that's okay. It's a natural wood piece. So some people will get aggravated by this little section here where it's not 100% smooth. It is locked in. It is filled in. There's no water going in there. But some people will want to fill that in and just smooth it out a little bit. And if you do, that's fine. You can. There's the finished product. A little closer look at it here. See, I went in and I rounded the fork points off just a little bit. You can round them off a little more if you want to. You can leave them straight. The oysters and sand will round them off over time. Really no need to protect this. It's natural, so it will last. Like I said, my other one is 8 years old and not an issue whatsoever. So this one shouldn't be an issue either.